I love this question about why did I choose this period, and the simplest way to answer it is probably to go back to when I was at university doing my master's degree, and I wrote part of my dissertation in rhyming couplets. Now, bear with me on this. I was pretending that I was essentially someone who was living around the time of Alexander Pope, and that I had lived to a very, very ripe age, and that I'd actually seen Shakespeare himself. So if you do the maths, you'll realise I would have to be extraordinarily old. So it's highly unlikely that anybody could ever have lived that long. But I loved the period, and I immersed myself to write my dissertation, which I would like to say I got a distinction for. Ta-da. In order to write that verse, I really immersed myself in the poetry of the time, which is really, really not like the poetry that we generally tend to consume at the moment. It was very formulaic, very elegant, very rhymed, very structured. And I just thought, wow, Alexander Pope really knows what he's doing. And I love the poetry of Jonathan Swift. So I always held a kind of special feeling for that period. And when I became a journalist and I realised what Daniel Defoe had got up to, so he was sort of pioneering with broadsheets, which is now what we call broadsheet newspapers, but he was pioneering on broadsheets the kind of things that these days people do with blogs and so on. And he was really having to hustle, and he was having to work in much the same way as I did as a journalist. And I thought this combination of Defoe with his journalism, and maybe, you know, Swift did some journalism too, and Pope and his poetry, it really grabbed me as a deeply unfashionable period that I wanted to investigate, and I wanted to see if I could bring it alive and make it interesting. And I was really aware of the fact that this was a period that people don't really seem to know much about. And Queen Anne was a real blank to me and to most people I mentioned her to. So I saw this as a challenge. With hindsight, I might have been more commercial to go for a historical period that everyone thinks that they do know about. But I loved it. I wanted to find out more, and I wanted to sort of, in some way, own that period. I wanted to be the one who wrote the thing that no one else had done, which was exactly about how those writers were so central to that historical moment in the life of the country and the court. So I hope that answers that question.